Hello again everyone, and welcome back to Mobile Tech Info. And today I'm gonna be doing a comparison between the 435 and its older brother, the 520, and see which one of these should you pick one over the other. So let's get into it. So here we have the two lying side by side. I suggest we first start with a physical comparison, as I already did in my preview of the 435. Like I said back then, they're very similar in size, with the 520 being slightly taller, a bit thinner actually than the 435. I think it's about 0.8 millimeters difference. This one is 9.9 and this one is 11.7. So there's a noticeable difference in thickness. Now you really see that they have a different kind of design philosophy. So this one is a little bit more pebble-like, rounder, and this one is a little bit more squarish. But you can also see it just in the whole shape of the device. So this one is a bit thinner, also a bit lighter, I must say. I think it's about 10 grams in difference between the two. But you see the screens are exactly the same size, 4 inches both of them. Let's have a look at the button layout. As you can see, they both have the volume up and down keys and the power buttons on the side. And just like in my 620 video, you see this is the older generation, so it does have this dedicated camera button that you don't have anymore on the new Lumias. Go to the back, also just with what I said in the preview. This lens looks a lot bigger, but it's a 2 megapixel fixed focus camera, and this one is a 5 megapixel autofocus, which also does 720p HD video recording, and this one does not. They both still have the 3.5 millimeter jack on the top, although here it is on the right, and it's nicely centered in the 435. Go to the bottom, they both have their charging ports there. And in terms of speaker, I'd say the 435 is a bit louder than the 520, as I will demonstrate later in this video. So that's a pretty nice new thing that you've got going for the 435 in that respect. Also, if we look at the front, you'll notice indeed that there's a front-facing camera on the 435, and it's absent on the 520. Also, might I add, is the screens of both of them are very reflective and pretty prone to fingerprints actually, so that's something I guess you should expect on a cheaper device. Any other notable differences aren't really there. Another difference might be, well, I think it's an important difference, but that's more a hardware comparison, that the 435 does have indeed a bigger battery of 1560 milliamp hours, whereas the 520 has a 1430 milliamp hour battery. And from what I can say is the 435 does last longer on a single charge than the 520. 520 will get you to a full day of solid use, but the 435 can even carry it on until 1.5 up to almost 2 days. So that's a difference that they've got going for each other. Now let's take a look at the screens. They both have the double tap to wake feature, so that's pretty nice that they have it, because of course, as I told you before, there wasn't really a low-end Lumia next to the 520 that had this. Well, if you look at the displays, difference in quality isn't that huge, but you do have a little bit better contrast on the 520 after having them both next to each other, and that's because the 520 actually has an IPS technology used in the display, whereas the 435 does not have that. Also in this comparison took the liberty of using the same wallpaper on both. You see that the greens are just a little bit more vibrant and clearer on the 520. Also in the theme you can see that, so this is a bit more green and this is a bit more washed out. In terms of screen touch performance, I'd say they're about equal. The 520 was very fluid in touch, and it still is actually. So there's no real difference there. Maybe in a couple of apps or with heavier use, the 435 will feel slightly faster, but I'll get to that a little later on in this video. Now on to the more interesting part, I bet, for you guys. How do they stack up against each other in terms of performance? Well, the differences aren't that huge, but they are there. For instance, let's just see what these two are running on. We'll see on which version they're currently running of the OS. 435 runs on Lumia Denim, and the same counts actually for the 520, which also received the new Denim update. So you can see that here. Yeah, let's also check out the specs. So you can see this one has 1 GB of RAM, this one has 512 megabytes of RAM. In terms of processing power, on paper the 520 does have possess a faster chipset, even though it's older. For this one it's an S4 Play processor, so a Qualcomm S4 processor of 1 GHz with 2 cores, and Adreno 305 GPU. 435 has actually one of the weakest processors you can use in a phone. That's the Snapdragon 200, the dual-core variant, and it has an Adreno 302 GPU. So graphically, it should be less powerful than the 520. Well, let's back that and see how the real-life performance is of these two with a bunch of app comparisons. So let's start with one of my favorite Windows Phone apps, and that's MyTube. Also, something I forgot to tell you guys in the display comparison. It does seem that the screen inside of the 435 gets a bit brighter. So in terms of outdoor visibility and even indoors, as you can see, the 435 is a step up from the 520. I can tell you that much. So let's try and see if we can find the same movie. Popular. Okay. Let's try this one. You'll see the 435 was a bit quicker with starting the video. Let's see if we can compare the image qualities in the videos. Bit lackluster in both, I must say. We'll check it out. Again, you can see a little bit more contrast in the 520's image as opposed to the 435, which looks a bit more washed out. But both of them very poor viewing angles actually. Barely glance at the screen in this bright room of mine. So not very nice viewing experience inside, but as I just said, you can crank up the brightness in the 435 a bit. So inside, in terms of viewing experience, I would give the edge to the 435. That's just purely because it gets brighter. Image quality goes to the 520 again, because you just see even the reds here. The reds here are almost a bit pinkish, and fiery red on the 520, real red. So that was an interesting comparison. So you can see the performance in starting movies is a bit faster on the 435. And again, I think that's because of the 1 GB of RAM in the 435, as you may see. So let's try another app. Let's try one of the pre-installed apps, Nokia Mix Radio. See which one comes in on top. Again, 435 slightly faster with starting up the app, but in terms of operating the apps, navigating through them, that's not really a difference. Can't really say that one is faster than the other in terms of per handling of the app, but app loading times up to now is faster on the 435. Let's try another app. Let's try one of the most used apps, I believe. See, let's try Facebook. Well, it's about the same, I'd say. So scrolling is, like I said, equally fluid on both. But I must say that app loading times definitely goes to the 435. Okay, let's try with slightly more intense apps like games. I've got a bunch of games installed here, so it should be interesting to see which one comes on top, out on top. Let's try Temple Run 2 first. Again, this is a 520 and a 435, in case maybe you've missed a bit of the video. They do look really similar when you look at them up front. That's the first thing I noticed when I saw the 435 for the first time. Really, really similar in design, yet different. 435 wins it again. 520 taking its time to load up the app. Yeah, it's finally there. Again, I think just with my 620 review, I'm gonna have to conclude that 435 performance is a lot faster when starting apps. I think it's about the same. Let's try some gameplay. First try it on a 435. Very smooth to operate. I can barely believe this is a 60-euro phone. Incredible performance for the price. It just does absolutely everything a basic smartphone should be able to do. Alright. Let's try it on the 520. See how it resumes? Yeah, it does. Alright. I must say, trying them one after the other, there's no difference in this game. So let's, so we can fire off another game and compare that. Let's try a slightly heavier game. I'd say something like Tentacles, the new one, which has some new graphics and 3D. Sure. I don't know where you need my location, but okay. I must mention also that I haven't started both of these games yet on both of the devices. So it should be interesting to see first time running these games. Really nice game, by the way. If you have a Windows phone, you need to have this game. Really cool. Taking their time. I already see something going on a 435. Oh, okay. It's done on the 520. That's that's the first time the 520 is actually beaten in. Alright. Or did if I really struggling to get the task done. Still loading up again. I think maybe it has to download some additional details on it. Might as well start the gameplay on the 520 then. looks perfect on the 520, and it's finally done on the 435. Alright, it seems on the 435 it's already got back my save game, so maybe that's why it took a bit longer. Let's give him a try then. Try and start it up again. That is a very nice service. I didn't know it's saved across phones, because I actually have the game installed on another device. And so on the 435 it does get your additional game info, and on the 520 it doesn't. So that's also a pretty notable difference. Let's see what actually so fast as we're starting up the game, loading up the game. Oh, now it's a 435 that's done quicker, so I guess on the basis of that I can give the edge to the 435 once again. You can see the 520 taking quite a while to get back to the main menu, so that's also a difference. Let's try one more app actually, SigStack. Very important app to a lot of Windows Phone users, I'm sure. Alright, so press on the 435. It opened relatively quick on the 520, but it took a little while to update to the latest post I have. Another thing I want to try now is see some more of the performance, and let's see which one is better at multitasking. Let's see. Wow, the 520 actually already shut down Tentacles. Let's see if it can resume tempo run. They both started tempo run from the start. So I guess tempo run is not really optimized to be in a multitask background task. So that's a bit of a bummer. So let's close it. Go back to Tentacles, which we can resume. Yeah, so it resumes Tentacles. That's pretty nice. Let's see if MyTube is still open, because I think MyTube, the latest version, does support 512 MB RAM caching. So yeah, starts at the same video. Yeah, so that's pretty nice. You see, in Windows Phone, it's a bit app dependent if it's really good for multitasking or not. But I guess games in general will cache better on if you have 1 GB of RAM. Let's see. Let's try one last game actually. Yeah, it's also a new game that I installed. Let's try Dread. Also a bit of a heavy game. Nice 3D graphics. Oh, very similar. Alright, let's play. Storyline. Next. That's fine. So it's loading up the level now. Alright. Lots of menus in this game.
This is Justice Department property, and I'm taking it back.
Alright. Relatively simple controls. Let's go and check out some zombies.
Got a bad feeling about this.
Ooh, okay, they killed me. Wow, that was pretty nasty. But again, a lot more contrast
Justice Department property,
on the
and I'm
520.
taking it back.
It's really the only difference you're gonna notice. It just looks better on the 520. Yeah, nice graphics. Also nice sound actually. Nice sound quality on both speakers. And you really see the 520 struggling to get back. So what else do we got? Let's take a look at the browser performance. It's something that's relatively important to use on both. I already loaded up a page, so let's see which one does it faster. Yeah, 45, slightly faster. Let's try it with a different web page. Let's try one of the heaviest sites, phonearena.com. Let's see which one loads it up faster. 485. Browser performance. Scrolling, zooming. Adequate response on both. Scrolling is also the same on both. Let's see what it does on tap to zoom. Yeah. Also extremely similar. Let's tap on there. See if we can find a review. Let's see. A bit better touch response on the 435. It doesn't seem to know on the 520 that I actually want to see this article. Nope. So that's pretty odd. Let's try it again. Swipe from the left to go page back on the 435. And we do that here. Ah, yes. Yeah. Alright, nothing happened on the 520. Okay, so it doesn't remember the website that I have in between, right? Let's try different websites. I think it doesn't really like the Phone Arena website. Let's try GSM Arena. 3, 2, 1, go. New page. Let's do a refresh. Alright, well, I think that was a tie. Well, let's try and go into an article. Again, 435 slightly better touch response when I click on a link. So it responds just that bit more agile and faster. Let's do reading mode on both. So that's also in general, I can conclude in terms of performance, 1 gigabyte of RAM makes the most difference of all. So all those new Microsoft branded, because you can see here, this is Microsoft branded, this is the Nokia brand, all the Microsoft branded with 1 gigabyte are basically very fast and faster than all of the other 512 MB RAM low-end Lumias that came out. I think the last phone that I need to check that out and verify that is the 630 and 635, since it has a higher class Snapdragon 400 quad-core processor. But other than that, I can say 1 gigabytes of RAM beats faster CPUs and GPU combos. So that's a very interesting take. Alright, let's conclude this comparison and see which camera performs better. Let's see. Let's do it through the menu so we can do it a bit fair, because as you know, the 520 does have a camera button, but that wouldn't be a fair comparison. Let's do Lumia camera on both. 3, 2, 1, go. Again, the camera starts up faster on 435. Yeah, but an interesting fact is actually, so here we have the viewfinder, and let's just take a picture of another phone here. A big authoritative phone, the Samsung A10s. Let's take a nice picture. That's pretty fast with taking pictures, but as you can see, there's some rings missing here. Let's do that with the 520. You see it takes a bit longer on the 520 to take a picture, but that's because you're out of focus, so I can actually touch also where I want to focus. And you can also see you got a lot more rings going on the 520 than you can do with the 435. So again, another field where the 520 wins is just that you have a lot more camera features available to you because it supports autofocus. So camera is more versatile on the back of the 520 than it is on the 435. The 435 also has an extra that the 520 doesn't have, and there's the front-facing camera. I'll check that out too for a little bit. But I can tell you now, the front-facing camera, it's alright for selfies, but a VGA resolution isn't really the best you can get, far from it even. So I think that concludes the interface and the functionality of the two compared side by side. Yeah, it's really hard to pick actually. I think I'm gonna come down to the same conclusion as I had with my previous review of the 620 taking on the 435. If you want a better screen and a better camera, go for the 520. If you just really want a faster phone that can handle more and you don't really care that much about the camera, go for the 435. If you compare the two in terms of price, in Holland they've got these crazy prepaid deals, so I actually just paid 44 euros for the 520, and that's, like I said, 64 euros for the 435. If you take price in consideration, the 520 is still a very, very good phone. I mean, we all remember when the 520 came out, it was the first low-end phone, regardless of platform, that had good and smooth operation throughout, you know, so you can play some decent games on it. It has a pretty good camera, battery life also right, it's fast at loading pages. You can do basically anything you will want from the cheap phone. So on one hand, that's still true to this day even, and also they're gonna get Windows 10, so let's see by that time how the two compare. But the nice thing I think is the 435, unlike the 630, which was a bit more expensive and lacking a bit of features, the 435 actually continues the trend that the 520 started. So it's a very, very cheap device, very well built, you know, very comparable to what the 520 was when it came out, maybe even a bit more rigid. But yeah, it continues the trend of being fast, reliable, and yeah, you can depend on it for a lot of things. I mean, it does nearly anything you could possibly want from a very cheap smartphone, and more actually, because they both have SD cards to expand the memory. You can expand the memory on the 520 until up to 64 gigabytes, and as you know, on all the new Lumias, starting from the 630 when it first came out, you can expand this memory up with a card up to 128 gigabytes, and maybe more even with the higher capacity cards coming out. So all in all, my verdict is they're both very, very, very good phones. If you can find the 520 cheaper, then it's probably worth more of your money, but if you just wait for the price of the 435, which is already low, to drop, then you have a really, really good deal. Another device that you might think of that is also in this price range is the 532, which is basically a blend of these two phones. So it has a faster processor than the 435, comparable actually, even though it's quad core to the 520, but it does have a 5 megapixel camera, also with fixed focus. But it will shoot a lot better pictures than the 435 can manage. So I'd like to end this video with thanking you for watching, and I hope I really made your choice easier. I mean, both of them are excellent devices, and I hope I've given you some insight in what it is that these devices do and what they can do for you, and how good they are at what they're supposed to be doing, and that's being a smartphone and doing all the basic tasks. In future videos, I'm still looking forward to maybe put the 435 to a test against Android counterparts. So stay tuned for that, and again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.
Yo, 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 yo. Can you feel me, God? Can you feel me, star? Can you feel me, like? You know just who we are. Can you feel me? Yo, 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 yo.